I feel like this is the part of the video where I should be going, "You're insecure, you're insecure, you're insecure, 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 Welcome back to 10 Years Later, the series where I talk about albums from the 2010s that were either impactful to me, impactful to music in general, very popular, or just worth revisiting 10 years later for good or bad reasons. And as you could tell from the title, the album that we'll be talking about today is the 2011 One Direction record, Up All Night. This was the debut album from the best boy band before Brockhampton, One Direction. Back in the early 2010s, the group's 5 members, Harry Styles, Liam Payne, Louis Tomlinson, Niall Horan, and Zayn Malik, all auditioned on their own on the UK version of the X Factor. After all of them struggled through these solo phases, one of either Simon Cowell or Nicole Scherzinger, because it's debated who actually did this, came up with the idea of combining all of them together into a boy band. The group would go on to finish third in the competition, and after one of their songs was leaked onto the internet, it was revealed that they had signed to Cowell's Psycho Records label. Given the shit I've heard about how badly that label treated its artists, poor guys. Even so, this album was a massive commercial success with some major hits including What Makes You Beautiful, which beyond going #1 in the UK also had major crossover and reached #4 here in the US. Personally, I didn't grow up on One Direction. I didn't mind boy bands in my youth, but by the time One Direction started popping off, I wasn't a pop music listener, and I remember just not caring about the group. As time went on, I did start to enjoy some of their work, but that was largely just stray singles as well as the group's solo music, particularly that of Harry and Niall. However, I was curious to look back on this old project to see if there was anything I was missing. Little did I expect that the record was going to be 18 tracks stretching an hour and 3 minutes. I know that's specifically the deluxe edition, but that was the only one available on Spotify, so I had to listen to it. And admittedly, the beginning of the record had some cute boyish charm to it that made me think it was gonna be pretty fun. But after a while, that starts to wear off and the album becomes pretty forgettable. The gigantic single What Makes You Beautiful opens the album, and to be honest, I almost didn't write an entry about this song in my script because I was just ironically headbanging to it the entire time. This song just occupies a weird space in my mind. It's so unbelievably cheesy and goofy that it somehow actually becomes kind of enjoyable. It's not a song I feel like I want to listen to over and over, but there's just this weird sweetness and charm to it that plays perfectly to the type of crowd that really enjoys boy bands. One Thing is in the same boat for me. While listening, I honestly couldn't stop giggling at the song. Not because I didn't like it, but probably just because it's so cute and bubbly that no matter how cheesy it is, it's just fun enough to work. The vocal personality elevates the song a bit, and the hook is definitely catchy enough to register for me. More Than This tries a more emotional feel, being an acoustic-leaning track with some slightly bigger electronic moments. Again, it's cute, it works well for what it's trying to do, and the boys all buoy their boyish charm into making this pretty memorable. It's pretty standard boy band fare, but honestly I dig it a bit. Take In is one of only 3 moments on the album where the boys are actually given writing credits, and they use that opportunity to make another soft pop jam with more emotional acoustic-leaning production. It's not like a song like this was reinventing the wheel at the time, but on its own, it's got enough charm and adorableness to make it a memorable track. That's about it for highlights though, as most of the rest of the album is blatantly forgettable, though very little of the blame for that I feel belongs to the actual members of the group. Gotta Be You is one of the moments where the boys try to move into more of a downbeat emotional direction. I think their vocal charm is what keeps this song afloat, and it makes the emotional feel work a bit, but the production doesn't totally grab me all that much, and as much as I want to enjoy the chorus, it just does so little for me. Ditto at points for I Wish, which stays in the emotional direction a touch, only to feel average at best. I think the jealous of an ex-lover being with someone else angle can work, but the upbeat production and average hook do very little for me. Same Mistakes, one of the other 3 tracks where the boys receive writing credits, is a point where the album starts to succumb to its long length. It's another moment where the boys take things into this more mellow, emotional direction, and while it does feel like a nice, very genuine song, the lack of a strong hook combined with production as average as the wall behind me loses my interest pretty quickly. The title track, Up All Night, not to be confused with the Drake song, is an upbeat party jam that honestly doesn't land for me. I chalk this up to being one of the many moments of the boys didn't write this, so they probably didn't have have enough creative freedom to make something hit harder. The electronic production has that factory-produced feel to it, and the vocals feel just processed enough to where they take away some charm, especially on the rather forgettable hook. Same could be said for the Kelly Clarkson written Tell Me a Lie. This song is pretty loud and bustling, but it just feels like a mashup of some pretty average pop tropes. Even as someone who enjoys boy bands a bit, there's not enough catchiness or memorability to make this song stick out at all. I Want has one of those bouncy piano instrumentals that later moves into a pop rock direction with a massive drum beat and some throbbing guitar riffs. Vocally, it works and the boys still sound good, but this is another one that could absolutely benefit from a better chorus. It's built on a repetitive structure that sadly doesn't land all the way, feeling like a sad waste of one of the more intriguing instrumentals on the project. Everything About You heads into the electropop sound that was so omnipresent in 2011, and it's kind of surprising because with how common this sound was, I was surprised that this album wasn't absolutely stuffed with that, though that's not really a bad thing. As it is, while there are some cute moments and proclamations of love on the song, so much of the track reeks of producers listening to what was playing on the local radio and then saying, okay, let's do that. I'd be more forgiving if there was maybe some more vocal charm, but there are so many over-processed moments on the vocals that they just lose my interest. Save You Tonight, the last of the 3 tracks where the band members receive writing credits, also sticks in that electropop sound, but is wildly bubblegum to the point where it's loud but still dull. Typical 4 on the Floor style beat vocals that almost turn the boys into a machine with all the filters. It's just not captivating. Stole My Heart closes out the standard edition of the album, and sadly what we end with is one of the biggest moments of been there, done that dance pop that I've heard in this journey through the early decades. The overbearing, bombastic production drowns out a great deal of the vocal charisma of the boys, and the filters further ensure that they just don't register for me. That final track wasn't even the end though, because there are several bonus tracks here to talk about. Honestly, none of them really add much to the album or grab me in any specific way, so I'm gonna blow through my thoughts on them in quick and dirty ways. Stand Up feels like a more electronic version of some of the album's biggest songs, but without a lot of the charm or memorability of those tracks. Moments is an Ed Sheeran co-written acoustic ballad that has some intriguing lyrics, but I feel like I'd like it more if its production stayed light and maybe if Ed himself sang the song. Another World is another pretty standard mix of electronic and rock sounds that at the beginning I almost thought was trying to be a second coming of MC Hammer's You Can't Touch This. Na 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 uses one of the group's favorite vocal phrases and ends up being a rather sunny but otherwise average jam that plays out very similarly to other songs on the record. And the proper finisher, I Should Have Kissed You, is another overblown, bombastic electronic cut that probably will only play to hardcore boy band fans. Overall, One Direction's debut album doesn't sound much better after a decade, though I feel like the group is far less to blame for that. Vocally, I think these boys showed some very obvious charm and vocal talent, and I think they managed to lift a few tracks that could have easily been a lot worse. The biggest issue is just the production, which takes on a lot of the most stale average pop trends that were all over the place back in 2011, but without doing much in the way of keeping them charming. If anything, I'm gonna question if the people who were producing this album were actively trying to sabotage the group by making them sound worse. At several points, their voices are lathered in filters that just take away from their charm. Not a very good debut, but I don't really chalk that up so hard to the boys themselves. They clearly have a lot of talent, and I don't blame them for the album's shortcomings. The potential was absolutely there, they just needed better production behind them. Back in 2011, I can say with confidence I would have hated this thing because I didn't like this style of music at all. Listening to it now, I can only kind of shake my head at how little creativity they were given to work with on here. If I had to put it on my scale, it would probably get a bad rating. The boys definitely had and continue to have talent, but this album didn't allow them to show it as much as they could have. But that's just my opinion on this album. What did you guys think about it? Did you listen to it back in 2011? Do you still listen to it now? Did you love it back then? Hate it back then? Do you still love it now? Do you still hate it now? Are you just completely indifferent towards it? And for all of the Directioners watching this, who was your favorite member of One Direction, or who is your favorite member of One Direction? Whatever your thoughts and experiences are, leave them down in the comments below. Let's keep this civil and have some fun as we like to do. If you guys want to hit like and subscribe and support some of my other ventures that I have linked in the description, thank you. If not, it's no big deal. I totally understand. And as soon as I turn off this video, I'm going to film my next 10 Years Later video, which is going to be on Rihanna's Talk That Talk. Staying in the pop lane for this one, so stay tuned for that. But until then, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.